Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, based on where you're joining us from. You could type in the chat where you're joining us from today, because SI is a global community and it would be great to know each other. Awesome. Let's start. Hi, everyone. Super excited to be hosting today's workshop titled Exploring the Systems Design Canvas. This event is hosted by SI Design Hub. And quick housekeeping notes, the session will go on for about 60 minutes. It's going to be interactive. So at some point, you will hop on Miro board, pick one of these sticky notes and write your thoughts. So it would be a great idea if you could access this Miro board on your device. You'll find the Miro board link on your chat box, in the chat box. And the session is being recorded, so you can refer it in future on YouTube and on the website. Great. So today's session's purpose is to explore the Systems Design Canvas, a new tool designed to help teams streamline the design process through a systems lens. And this is a very new tool. We are testing it for first time in this workshop. So let's experiment together and see how it goes. Today's facilitator and hosts are Giselle, Roma, and Jos. Giselle is joining us from Brazil. She is a systems thinker and design thinker and a researcher. Myself, Roma, I'm joining in from Bangalore. I work as SI ecosystem builder since last 3 months, and I have background in interior architecture and design strategy. And meet Joss. Joss is the founder at SI Network, and he's also working as ecosystem builder and community builder. He's joining us from London today, Barcelona, sorry. So we're super excited for today's event and all the conversations that will unfold. The agenda is pretty straightforward. We have introduction and a quick icebreaker to know which design field you're coming from. And then we'll have workshop for about 45, 50 minutes. And in the end, we'll wrap up with your feedback. Time for icebreaker. So if you're not on the Miro board already, you can find the Miro board link in chat box and hop on for this icebreaker. You could pick one of these dots, purple dots, and place it in the circle based on how far you're from design field, how your practice, how far it is from design, and then which industry you work in. And we have about 2 minutes to do that. And the time starts now. Great. Thank you so much, everyone, for participating in the icebreaker. I see a great number of people from strategy and consultant background, and a lot of us are here from design background. So looks like a great bunch to experiment this canvas with. And for your future reference, you could access this canvas over here. You can press on the button and find it there. Thank you so much again. Over to you, Joss, for the next part.
Excellent. So great to be here today with you all and have a chance to share a bit about the canvas we've been working on in our design hub. Looks like we got lots of consultants and strategy and research people working in design or around it. Wherever you're coming from, good to have you joining. This is what we're going to be exploring today. This template, and it's very kind of high level in terms of outlining an overall method or process for approaching systems design or systemic design. As mentioned, you'll find it in the toolkit down here, the link on the website, which shares the canvas and then also walks you through the stages to facilitate it. So just to say a few words of where this is coming from. In our design hub, we've been thinking about, this process of how do you go about doing systemic design. And we've been doing that now for a couple of years and exploring different frameworks. And we've had previous sessions looking at different tools and so forth. So it all follows in that history. And this is kind of the latest version of that. So I've looked at many different kind of methods and processes and tried to find some commonalities and then played with them to see what works and so forth. So we just pulled in two here. There are many others. And this one actually on the right, I kind of co-created with Elise some time back, and whenever we share it, people get very interested in it. So it was kind of building upon that, and it's really about, again, those stages. You can see she has 4 here. Starting off with understanding the system, and then identifying leverage points is number 2. And then number 3 is the design thinking process in human-centered design to develop the intervention points. And then number 4, she's talking about implementing the interventions to realize the change in the system. Of course, none of this is linear. It's iterative, as this one kind of illustrates. Macy produced this one. And again, it's surprisingly kind of similar to that first one and the one we'll be looking at. So she's talking about starting off by understanding the system, start by getting a full picture of what's happening. So I think we'll always see that in this approach, because systems thinking is about seeing that bigger picture. So ideally, we always kind of start with some systems thinking. Identifying leverage points, we look for the places where small changes can make a big difference. And number 3 is co-designing solutions. We design creative, practical responses that go beyond quick fixes. And finally, learning, adapting, and sustaining to create tools to learn and adapt as we go along. Again, iterative. So that's just 2 examples. And we've been thinking about this for some time. And actually builds upon the method we have at SI for systems innovation, which is quite similar. But this is the canvas we're going to be looking at today. And you can see 4 quadrants here that we're going to be working through. We're going to put the challenge in the center. I'll show you the challenge we're going to choose in a minute. And then we start on the top left, similar to the others. We're exploring the challenge to reframe it in a systemic way. Then we're going to move to top right, which is about mapping and finding the places of high leverage to intervene. And then bottom right, ideating. This is about how we'll design new innovations at those intervention points we previously identified. And then we're going to the bottom left, which is about developing and iteratively growing the new set of initiatives in the system and taking them forwards as an initiative. So that's it basically. And one could, just take this canvas and do many things with it and, ideate yourself in terms of what are we going to do in exploring and mapping and all these different areas. We have filled it out a little bit in terms of adding specific canvases inside of each one of those to help us. Otherwise, it's very broad and a bit too open, but you could just take that main canvas and, figure out your own way of doing things similar to what they've done there. So that's what we're looking at today. That's the big canvas here. Again, top left, explore, top right, map, bottom right, ideate, bottom left, develop. And you can see the canvases inside it, and we're going to walk through those. Of course, we've just got 1 hour, so we're just it's really a practice session for you to get an idea of what's going on there. But let's maybe start with a challenge. We normally put our challenge in the center here. So we're imagining that we have been hired by the municipality of Sao Paulo to address water scarcity within the city through a systemic design approach. Dropped in a little info about that. Maybe we won't go too much into it, but due to a combination of severe drought, deforestation in the rainforests that disrupts rainfall and lack of maintenance and investment in aging infrastructure, and other contributing factors, including pollution, poor urban planning, high water consumption, and inefficient water management. Unfortunately, São Paulo is one of the cities that's experiencing a water crisis. So we're going to try and think about how we might apply our method here to ideating and developing an initiative for the municipality to take forwards in terms of addressing that challenge. It's going to be informed by systems thinking, trying to think more broadly. So let's get started. We have about 45 minutes left. We're going to pretty rapidly, maybe got 10 minutes for each quadrant or a little bit less. So I'm just going to explain it a little bit, and then we'll have a few minutes for you to play with it in terms of posting up your ideas and any quick conversation you want to have in that quadrant before we move on. And I'll be doing the top 2 quadrants, and then my colleagues Roma and Giselle will be working on the bottom ones. So here we are on the top left, and this is all about exploring the challenge from a systems perspective. So we're going to use the model of a system, as we'll see now, to look broadly at the overall purpose, structure, mental models, and so forth adopted in that context. So let's take a look at that. It's kind of an adapted template from our systems modeling canvas. System is a set of parts and relationships between them through which they form an overall system that exists within some environment. You can see that up here. There's a structure to that system, what we've got going on down here. It performs a function that we have over here, and it has inputs and outputs, outcomes, and so forth. And there's a paradigm, a mental model in terms of how we're looking at that system, how we're understanding it, how we're going about designing and managing it. So we posted up some of those. And they could be adjusted depending on which ones you think are relevant. But just quickly to take a look, we might start in the environment up here. Yeah, you're welcome to post up your stickies if you're really excited and you want to get started. Feel free to do that. Top left, what is this system a part of, and what are the broader changes? So at this stage, we're kind of looking outside the box, right? So we're not focusing. In the next section, we're going to zoom in on the system, map the different factors and actors and try and understand it. At this stage, we're kind of stepping back to look at the bigger system. What's this system a part of, right? That's part of what system thinking is about, looking more broadly, more expansively to see the interrelationships and the context within which it exists. So the environment is about the overall context that the system's part of, and what are the bigger changes there. Feel free to post up any ideas. Could be, climate change is coming, or environmental degradation. We heard about forestry there, maybe even aging infrastructure. We heard about that there. Then we might go to the top right. What are the current outcomes? What's working? What's not working? So this is a little bit like the iceberg model, where we're thinking about it on its different levels. The outcomes are actually the events that we see at this time. So we could post up, what's working, what's not working. This is an interesting question. The function. What's the purpose of this system? Sometimes that sounds obvious. Other times it can be widely disputed amongst the actors. For water system, maybe not too much controversy there. It's about delivering water to people and agriculture and so forth. But one can define it more narrowly or more expansively. One can have very different perspectives on that in education. Different actors would have different perspectives, but that's an interesting question to be asking. Um, bottom here, what's the overall structure? What's the systemic structure, the relationships between the parts? Is it centralized? Is it decentralized? Is it hierarchical? Or is it more distributed? Questions like this. So again, that's a bit like the iceberg model. At the top, we have these outcomes, the events, the relationships here, but we also have the mental models. How are people looking at this? And what's the paradigm they're adopting in terms of interpreting this system and how they go about understanding, making sense of it, and then designing and managing it? So again, this is the kind of broad systems thinking stage where it's the exploring, right? We're making sense of this system as a system, right? Instead of just a set of parts. So maybe we just take 2 minutes just for you people to take a look over that. Might encourage you to post up responses to the questions. That interaction will help you actually learn about the canvas itself. So let's jump into that. Okay, welcome back. So yeah, let's maybe just take a couple of minutes if you want to share anything about this section or even the canvas as a whole so far. Happy to discuss that. Questions or comments, feel free to unmute yourself and ask them out. Timmy?
Sure thing, yeah. I didn't see that I was unmuted the whole time. Sorry about that. I really like the structure of the board to really have it separated into the different parts of the system. So looking at the environments, outputs, inputs, paradigms. It's a great way to think about the whole structure of the system at once. I put quite some post-its into the environment parts. Just because I believe that, like I put in urbanization, climate change, water cycles, which are basically overarching structural systems that influence this system in particular. I hope I understood the placement correctly.
Yeah, it's also about, the way this system forms part of many others and its relationships with those. Yep. Maybe I'll stay going. Anybody else want to comment or pick up on anything? Kathy, you're unmuted. Should I mute you or anything you wanted to add, or do you want to mute? Or... No.
Nothing for me. I'm just absorbing
Okay.
the information, trying to get my head around everything.
You're new to this world of systems design.
Yeah, I come more from UX and UX, strategic design and stuff like that. So, but I think this is very important. We need that as we get more and more. The systems they're collapsing or they're getting way overly complex. So I'm very interested in adding this to my tool belt.
Yeah, yeah, it's exactly where a lot of people come from. And I guess what's about is, stepping back, this here is a lot of what we do in design, isn't it? Double diamond sort of stuff. But if we can step back to the broader system, then it has a number of beneficial things. We can potentially be more strategic at intervening in the right place, right? And seeing more broadly about the set of interventions and designs we need, but also think about those unintended consequences and negative externalities in all of these. So it can be greatly beneficial in that respect. Anyone else? Are we all happy with this part? We move on. Any questions?
Hi, this is
Charlotte?
Gerald.
Yeah, Carol, go for it.
Yeah, so I previously did some analysis on our current water system in Mongolia, Ulaanbaatar, and we found some really quirky, funky truth about the industry, and one of which is that there was a lot of a free use, what I like to call a free use, but or unpaid use of water by companies, the private entities in particular, and the pricing of the water was so deranged that it wasn't able the overall cost recovery of the water service was way below of what it should be, and effectively, I mean, the whole system was collapsing, as you mentioned, because of the lack of cost recovery. And the other thing was that that it was one of the least digitized sector among most of the government-run entities, which is why the American taxpayer-assisted a project called Water Impact Compact came in to digitize the services. So yeah, that is kind of being, and currently, it's an ongoing project at the moment, and it's supposed to help out with the cost recovery hugely.
Yeah.
And there's in Sao Paulo's case, it seems that there's a lot of leakages. So what Mongolia is doing with that is it's continually sort of changing pipelines.
Yeah, I think you'll find those factors across many kind of water systems, as you say, because water is not just like anything; it's survival for us. So there's certain public kind of values and expectations in it. But also another thing is, as I did research into, it's a very linear system, isn't it? We kind of put water in, it comes out the other end, and then we dump it as kind of wastewater. Really needs to be more cyclical and circular, and that's actually a kind of systemic structure that you need to step back and really kind of look at before you dive into it. Maybe Timmy, I'll move on for the moment. Maybe you could chime in a little bit later, just for the sake of time. So yeah, that was the first section. We're stepping back, think about the water system, also the paradigm, like how are people looking at this? What's their framing? Is water a human right? Should everybody have access to it, or should we all be paying for it, right? That's kind of a paradigm, right? People have different values about that and different expectations and so forth. Environment, it's interrelated with many other systems. Like I said, structure is an interesting one. How is this organized, this system? And these other ones, like actually, what's the purpose of this system? You would have some variation if you ask different people. let's stay going then. That was the bigger picture. Now this is actually zooming in because the system is composed of elements and interrelationships that we haven't really looked at here. We looked at the outside of it, but the mapping is all about that. What are those factors and interrelationships and actors that are affecting this system dynamic? So if you've been at SI before, maybe you've seen this canvas before. We call it the mapping leverage points. It's a very simple mapping tool. It's actually kind of circle mapping. So in this section, we are trying to zoom in. What are the factors? What are the actors? And then what are the intervention points? So here in this first circle, we would put the factors that we think are affecting this situation. And we've distributed those out in terms of technological and infrastructure ones here, economic, finance, business ones here, cultural, mental models, education, and so forth down there, social factors, government and healthcare and so forth, environmental factors, land and energy and so forth. So we would post up our stickies now. We'll take a few minutes. What do we think of the factors affecting this systems dynamic? For example, in technology, we might have one like metering or something like that. How are we actually tracking the usage of water across the whole thing? That's the technological kind of question about data and so forth. Let's try post up other ones there. After that, we would then come into the second circle out here and we start posting up intervention places. Where are places we could intervene to start to change and address these challenges and start to change the system's dynamics? So with metering, we might say, well, there's a big opportunity now with, satellite technology that can allow us actually to track water in totally new ways, right? And aggregate data in totally new ways about the usage and distribution of water. So that might be an opportunity space for us that we want to kind of explore in the future. So hopefully all that's clear. We're going to take another 2 minutes to post up some ideas here, whether it's a factor in this second circle or maybe an actor. You might want to post up, the government or the land, farmers and so forth, put those there. We could also connect them potentially. Maybe we won't do that today and think about the relationships between them. But then we can also post up intervention points out here that we think are related. And we might like to explore. We're going to be taking these down afterwards to potentially have them as places we're going to design interventions at. So let's jump in there, people. We've got 2 minutes and off we go. Okay, so that was a super quick mapping activity. Of course, we would do a lot more research, a lot more user interviews and fieldwork and ethnographic studies and all sorts of things to bring in our learnings and understanding the system before we do this. And we'd post up these factors. We'd also maybe draw those relationships between them. We could do, different synthesizing processes. So even when we have a whole pile of stickies, we could do some dot voting to see which are the most important ones. And then we could start ideating on these intervention points and start building those connections. One or two of you already did that, so let's take a look. So deforestation, low soil water retention. You put this in the environment section. Very good. What should we do? Replanting, river wiggling. Re-wiggling, okay, never heard of that. Damming, e.g. beavers. Okay, we get the beavers to fix this for us. Excellent. More rain for building reservoirs. Okay. And we've got other things around private water usage, unequal access, water waste in everyday tasks. And we've got this here. Gerald, people's willingness to use grey water. Yeah. And also the design of the system to really, make it circular, right? Someone else over here put in circular wastewater recycling. So we've got fair water pricing, rising cost of living, it could be a factor affecting it, interdependency of GDP and water, heavy water usage in agriculture, and maybe more people, eating meat and animal husbandry, consuming more water, diversified crop type agriculture usage to lower water equipment, crop water. Okay, great. This is a good idea. Jack, do you want to tell us a little about what's intervention? What do you think this would look like?
Yeah, sure. This was just really about, I don't know the agricultural makeup of Sao Paulo, but it could be that they have a heavy crop usage around, like avocados, for example, or they're very much in the beef industry, which is obviously very water intensive. So you can diversify that out to lower usage, or it might even be just combine that with a less monocropped culture as well.
Great. And also runoff water, are they capturing runoff water very good? They probably have a slightly tropical climate where you get these big downpours and that water just runs away. Could they find ways to capture that better, maybe? Climate tech startup, open innovation solutions, innovation in service delivery and market transparency. Excellent. Well done. It's a great ideation exercise. That was 3 minutes. Imagine if we took a couple of weeks with a team researching, discussing, ideating, posting, synthesizing. I think we could come up with some really great ideas. And so this was kind of the, divergent, convergent. Like the first part is going really broad in terms of, okay, what's the making sense of the system and the environment and all of this, and like how we're looking at it and all of that. This here was a bit convergent in terms of, okay, what are the factors? What's the real elements, factors, relationships, actors in the system? And out of this, we're starting to get our intervention points, which we're going to take forwards. Down below, we're going to have a portfolio of interventions that we're going to work around. So we would have done that mapping, we would have looked at those interventions, and now we would have probably voted upon them so that we could get, maybe we'll try that, right? We'll try and get 4 that we're going to take forward. So different water use prices. Okay, let's take that down now. Down here, we're going to add it. We've decided, voted that these were the good ideas, right? Or let's see, I'm going to score it like that. So let's maybe take this one forwards because we think it's a good idea. And we're going to bring it down here. Next, we're going to be doing our design cycles. I'm going to hand it off to Roma in a minute, but I'll just add these. So we're creating a little portfolio of interventions, not just one intervention, but a number that we think if we do this set, they might work together synergistically to actually change the overall dynamic here. Maybe here's another one, people's willingness to use gray water. Could we improve that? And just look at, yeah, let's just take that one, for example. Okay, so that's that. We had this initial divergent phase. We've just now gone through a convergent one to find the interventions that we're going to be taking forwards, and we've brought them down to the next section. I'm going to hand it over to Roma to lead you forwards.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you so much. For the next part, this is the ideation section. So you can see that there are multiple frames over here, and each one is actually a double diamond framework. So how it's different from a linear way of thinking is that we're not using just one idea and doing the double diamond process, but we're doing it on multiple leverage points. So for the sake of today's exercise, what we'll do is we'll pick one of these opportunity spaces, more rain for building reservoirs. And the top half is more about understanding the problem space and defining it. And the next part at the bottom is more about ideating and developing that idea. So we will try to put some stickies in the discover block and talk about what kind of questions do you need to answer to understand the problem space, like understanding user needs or behavior, observing behaviors, finding gaps and opportunities and problems and all of that. And then we'll come to the define space and write a how might we statement. And then in the ideate section, based on the how might we will have multiple ideas. Here, quantity matters over quality, because then from that large pool of ideas, we can pick a few with the team and then develop. So let's take some time to fill in these spaces. I understand that develop is a bit tough for today's workshop, so we could just add stickies writing how would you test these and different ideas to iterate. So we can treat it that way for today's workshop. So I'm starting. Anything?
Yeah, Roma, I might just change the challenge there just to get a better kind of formulated one. So should we try this one? People's willingness to use grey water. Maybe it's a bit of a taboo or a stigma at the moment. Maybe we can find ways to influence people's perception and also maybe the quality of that grey water, so it's really meeting people's expectations. Should we try this one?
Yeah, sounds interesting. So I'll go ahead and start the timer for 2 minutes. If we need more time, we can add more time to it.
So we're starting top left, isn't it, Roma? Do you want to just
we will start from the discover space, and then we'll move to define and then ideate and then develop. Is that clear? Is there any question?
We could maybe keep the stickies pretty small here, just so that we have enough space. Maybe I'll make this one bigger because we're using it.
I'm not sure how familiar you are with the recent inventions of timed tap water. So I'm not sure if you're familiar, but in the rural areas of our country, water waste is almost zero. It's the the sink water usage that generates the most amount of waste. So across Asian countries, they started introducing this timed or like sensor-based tap.
Yeah, there's also the question of pressure of the water. I've discovered
pressure,
too.
yeah.
Perhaps you just, as soon as you touch them, it all blasts out, and you're like, okay.
Yeah. Even sprinkling helps. Apparently, is sprinkling small amount of water for hand washing really helps. with saving water. So I think that those kind of inventions are very
yeah, I guess that's that would have been one of the other challenges we maybe looked into. Let's maybe stay working on this one. Maybe I should stay at another minute just for us to stay going. People's willingness and ability to use grey water.
So yeah, domestic household water, like stuff like sink water that you just I don't know. In our country's case, people very much willing to use grey water in car washing, for example, or toilet sanitation. Like yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I mean, we're still studying the perception. But in industries like mining, for example, there's no reason. It's absolutely horrific for them to be using clean groundwater. So for some heavy industries, I think using recycled water makes complete sense.
Okay, do you want to post it up, maybe, Gerald, so we can practice with this?
Yeah.
I think if we're done with the discover section, we could move on to defining, coming up with some of the how might we's.
I think we're going to need to kind of do all of them, aren't we, Roma, just for the sake of time? Yeah.
Yeah, all at once.
Yeah. So let's just in terms of time, let's see, let's maybe just add 3 minutes, maybe 1 minute each for the following boxes so that we can move through it.
All right, thank you so much for that. I see some really great insights here. Right, so people's perception on the usage of grey water need to be understood, and cost of extra infrastructure, parallel infrastructure needed, fresh and grey. How do we deal with the smell? Interesting question. What is the amount of grey water available? How to treat grey water? How to catch grey water? Automatic collection. What if there's not enough grey water? How to combine? So one interesting question. So once we have answers to these, we will synthesize and ideally move to the define stage. And we have some how might we's here how might we adjust the water usage behavior of everyday citizen in their home? People find it inconvenient. It's easier to use freshwater taps. So that could be one more. How might we could convert that? And the habit of collecting gray water is not formed. So how might we do that? And then current gray water systems and community perceptions may inhibit widespread adoption. So how might we kind of change that? So then we have ideation. We have one idea here: measure current perception and research current technology and local use cases. So we have this idea, and we could use this idea to start a venture. And I think Giselle will lead us for the next section, where we will take that idea and develop a venture based on that. Over to you, Giselle.
Okay, thank you, Roma. So I think I share my screen. Just to... Can you see my screen, guys?
Yes, we see that.
Okay. So here we have our last stage. You have a Canva. This is virtual building canvas. This canvas is helping us to develop our idea and structure as a venture, as an initiative. And this initiative could be an ecosystem startup or another initiative change do you want to implement in our organization. So the idea is bringing the idea for the center, and you start here defining what is the identity about our initiative, and we move for this stage when you define the vision, what is the purpose, vision, mission, and strategy of narrative you develop for our initiative. So the next one is about the programs. And here you have a quick question just to help and guide us about what kind of activities or services we could develop as a program here. The next block is about member and values. So who is this initiative for and how it creates value for the members? So members should be get involved in help it to develop them, or members as a final users. So, and the last one is about platform. Platform is about how the businesses operate. So what is the support content, technology, team, or research is needed to sustain our initiative? And also here we have some examples that help us. And I think you can take 3 minutes to develop this in this canvas, to work on this canvas. And so the idea is bring the idea you co-create with Roma in the previous step and bring it here and develop an initiative. So guys, if you have any question, we can drop in the chat. And I think you can start 3 minutes. So maybe you can take more 1 or 2 minutes just to finish the platform area.
Okay, maybe we start to draw to a close.
Yeah.
Hopefully you found that useful. Maybe I'll step back and kind of trace through the whole flow and maybe hear any last comments you might have before we finish today. We started off well in the center, right, posting up our challenge, and then top here where we try to think about it as a system, the broader context, environment, mental models, structure and function and so forth. We did our mapping to understand more in depth what's going on in the system in terms of elements, relationships, factors, actors, challenges, and intervention points. And that gave us some ideas to take forwards down here into our ideate section, where we had a number of specific areas we want to address. And we did a little design cycle to explore that specific challenge and then start to converge around ideas that we might actually take forwards for addressing it. So we would have had a little portfolio of initiatives we've ideated and designed here. And then finally, we're trying to package that into an initiative, a project, an ecosystem, a startup, whatever it may be, that we're trying to take this forwards with, depending whether it's inside an organization or we're starting a new venture or whatever it might be. And to do that, we need to think about, the identity. How do we communicate this, the vision, the mission? What's the value it's going to create? What's the supporting platform that's going to be needed? What are the activities and services it's going to provide, and so forth. And thus, by the end, we hopefully have this kind of ideation and initiative. We can go back to our municipality boss here and say, look, based upon our research, what we've done and so forth, we think this would be a great initiative to take forwards with this portfolio of interventions that we've designed and so forth. Of course, all of this could be done in a small team, or it could be opened up to broader workshops with a larger team, or some combination of both. We're doing internal research as a small team, then we're opening it up for larger workshops with the rest of the municipality or whatever it is, citizens, and eventually trying to get to some venture that we're proposing and going to take forwards with the municipality. So that's that, people. Hopefully you see it all and have this together, and hopefully it makes sense for you. Any final questions, comments? We've just got a couple of minutes. Feel free to unmute yourself. Out of 10, what would you give it as a canvas in the chat? Do you think it's very useful or not very useful? 0 for not very useful, 10 for very useful. If you can type that in the chat, give us some feedback. Okay, Ty, you think it's very useful. Great. And catch, 9 out of 10, Maxi. Okay. Kathy, you like the progression? 10. Okay. Excellent. Well, thank you very much for that. Any last thoughts or comments, any feedback you want to give us? Yeah, I mean, there is a box down here. I'll hand it over to Giselle now to wrap up, but thank you very much for joining. Personally, I'm quite pleased with this iteration. We have been through many iterations already and some that didn't work so well. I think this is starting to come together, so quite pleased with this. I'm sure it needs more work, but I think it's a big step forwards for us. So great to have you joining us for this, and I'll let Giselle wrap up for us. Of course, you'll find it on the website, right? So you're welcome to go and use it. It's Creative Commons and freely available. You can take it and experiment, and maybe hopefully share back in our design hub anything you discover. And we'll have future sessions around this also. So hopefully we can learn more together as we go along.
Okay, guys, thank you for joining us today. Our next event will happen 11 December, so it's Connect and Discuss event. If you click here, you can access full info about event, and here is about our official channels. Our events are recorded and available in our YouTube channel, and you have a linked page. We invite to follow us and subscribe in newsletter. I think that's all. Thank you guys again. Hope to see you next event.
Yeah, this was fun. Thank you.
Great. We welcome the feedback there. This one's about, how you found the session today. Was it helpful? Was it not helpful? And yeah, any text in the stickies would be greatly appreciated. But we're just on time, perfectly on time. So we'll wrap up. We've got the recording. We'll share that back with you. You have the canvas. Look forward to seeing you guys in a future session.
You.